So then talk to me about WB Montreal. You say they're
Sure.
basically a support studio. Where are we at with them? Where do you want to talk about their journey?
Yeah, man. So it's a long one. I mean, they have been around for a long time, since like 2010 or something like that. They came out with Arkham Origins, which I think some people appreciate, even though it was always kind of the black sheep of the Arkham games, the one that Rocksteady didn't want to talk about, like, and just wanted to focus on their own
Here's the
trilogy.
Arkham trilogy.
Right,
Another game.
right. And then they had a bunch of false starts. So like after Origins, they were working on two games. They were working on a Suicide Squad game and a Damian Wayne game, and then both of those were canceled one after another. And then they had this new mandate of like do a service game and also reinvent Batman, like do a Batman game without Batman. Eventually, the service stuff was kind of stripped out of that, and that is what became Gotham Knights. That's a game that I think had a troubled development, as they all do.
Do you know around?
For all sorts of reasons?
Do you have any idea of like timeline wise what these mandates were given out and then maybe like pulled out of? Hey, we're not doing that service stuff. Are we talking like 2019, 2018 ish?
So that game started development, Gotham Knights, in 2017, and that's when the mandate from Haddad and team was they used to use this this phrase called digitally powered, which was like before games as a service became the big term.
Cool.
That was it. It was like, how are we gonna like equip these games with long-term revenue plans and digital content drops and blah 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 blah.
It
blah.
sounds way more fun to their credit. Games as a service sounds very corporate-y, yeah.
Yeah, it does. But when you say digitally powered to like people who were at Warner at the time, they like get a shudder. They're like, oh my God, like, that brings back awful memories. And yeah, so I don't know exactly when it was kind of like when Gotham Knights ditched that. It was a couple years into development when it was like, hey, this is no longer the plan. Like we're gonna switch gears on this one. But that was a period of like big game as a service stuff. Which another thing, by the way, a lot of people have talked about how like in recent years, people like Zaslav and JB Perret are talking all about games as a service, but the games as a service mandate started long before that. And this is more executives just kind of like saying what shareholders want to hear. Because if you look at their current slate of games, they're not games as a service. I mean, Hogwarts 2 is not going to be like a game as a service. Like Batman from Rocksteady is not going to be a game as a service. Wonder Woman wasn't going to be a game as a service. So the concerns, this is not a company that is like going all in on game as a service. They're going all in on those big franchises.
But is that because they touch the stove? Like they fuck around and find out kind of thing? Like they saw how the industry was going. They saw, I mean, with Suicide Squad, what happened?
No, I think they still believe that there's like room for success. Like I was talking to I've talked to executives there who talk about how like the there may be there is like they can envision a world where like you are playing in Hogwarts with your friends and you go hang out with your buddies in Hogwarts and you're all wizards together and taking classes together, and there's like they have these kind of fantasies in their heads about games as a service that might work. It's just that these particular projects that are currently in development, I'm sure they have a game of service at some point somewhere, but those are not them. They're also focusing on mobile, by the way. They're doing a lot of stuff in mobile that they hope will hit in a way that some of their other mobile games did not.
I cannot imagine the amount of times metaverse was thrown around at these at any of these meetings when you talk and you go with your friends to classes at Hogwarts. Like that sounds
I'm
like
late for my 9:30 potions class.
Yeah, that sounds like such a like directive of we also need to be in this sphere. That's so sad.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But it's also, I mean, you could see that working, right? Like Hogwarts MMO. I remember there were Hogwarts like MUDs back in the day that were incredibly popular. People role playing in the Hogwarts universe. It's an appealing proposition for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, that sounds really good, but then I also think about that could just be a Fortnite mode. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the inevitable place where we're going to go. Like, have you heard anything about that? Like, I know that James Gunn talked about how he wants to collaborate more with Fortnite in the future. Is that something that's on the table as maybe an alternative to what they're doing or what they were doing?
I don't know. I can't imagine it's a significant part of their revenue if it is.
Yeah.
So then for WB Montreal, obviously Gotham Knights doesn't do well. Where does that leave them?
Yeah, so they wound up in this kind of amorphous position, sort of like what happened to Monolith that I was mentioning earlier, where it was kind of this back and forth of like meeting after meeting and them trying to pitch things and never really getting a no, but not getting a yes either. Or it would be like, yeah, we're really excited about this. So are you going to give us a budget or a timeline? No, just like keep working on that. Like keep doing what you're doing. Like those are the conversations that people would have, which I imagine was infuriating for a lot of people. So WB Montreal after Gotham Knights, their original vision was like, hey, we know this isn't perfect, but we have all this tech, we have this team together, we have this chemistry. Why don't we do like a Miles Morales style, like 1.5 Gotham Knights game that really just kind of like takes out that stuff and like makes it a lot better. And that was canceled after the performance of Gotham Knights. So that was sad. It's really sad because like companies these days, maybe because budgets are so high, just don't give teams the opportunity to kind of learn from mistakes and make the kind of the Mass Effect 2 or the Uncharted 2 or the Assassin's Creed 2, like the game that really builds on the foundation and makes something really great.
Instead, we keep reliving this cycle, right? Where it's like all these former AAA devs leave the big company to go start their own thing, and they bite off more than they can chew. They make a game that is maybe a 7, and then they get closed. Their funding gets taken away, or Absurd Venture buys their entire studio. I don't know. Andy, you keep raising your hand.
Well, I wanted to bring up just the development of Gotham Knights, and it kind of reminds me of like the story of Veilguard, where it was going to be a games as a service game, and they had to sort of reinvent it and make it a single player RPG. Where, like, when we talk that this game was going to be a games as a service, are we talking Destiny style? And was there a whole lot of we have to reboot this project happening with Gotham Knights?
No, Dragon Age, they had to reboot a lot of things, and this they did not, because if you look at the structure of this game, I mean, it's already, when I say service, I mean, the idea was like, in Gotham Knights, you would still be teaming up with your friends multiplayer. It would be the same sort of game. It's just like for the year after development or the years after development, we would be releasing new boss packs and like
Battle
stuff
passes.
for you to do. It was just kind of like an ongoing content plan. So it's not like they drastically changed the game as far as I know.
It sounds digitally powered to me.
And with that, like the way Gotham Knights is structured, it definitely is built to kind of have that. They just didn't do it, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And then so after Gotham Knights, so 1.5 was canceled. They wound up pitching a Constantine game before realizing after months of pitching that like Burbank was never going to say yes to that and just kept dragging them along. They wound up I think Burbank, the people in WB, when I say Burbank, that essentially means WB Games corporate. I think they said like, hey, why don't you do something about on the Flash or Joker? And they picked the Flash and wound up working on that, but then that didn't happen. There was I think there was a belief from WB in Burbank that like WB Games Montreal had they couldn't be trusted to make new games after Gotham Knights was such a failure, and that they should become a support studio. And while some of these pitches were going on, a lot of the people from Montreal got put on Wonder Woman, and even some other games throughout the org. And so they essentially were turned into a support studio for WB. But Burbank didn't want to say that to the company. Like they didn't want to say like, hey, we're going to make you a support studio. So instead they kept dangling like this idea that they could pitch something new. And I believe the current state of things is that they're pitching a new Game of Thrones game. So we'll see if that happens. Would be fun to see.
Who's pitching the Superman game over there, Jason? What the hell?
I feel like there has never been a Superman game. Like maybe ages ago there was like a pitch deck of one, but I've never heard anything concrete about a Superman game actually happening there.
Why would you? He's kind of overrated.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
And he's also like almost
Greg,
impossible to design around, because he's just way too overpovered. And
we already played Crackdown.
Yeah. And like Superman
hearing...
64, like flying through rings. Like how can you top that?
I remember hearing that like Rocksteady was adamantly opposed and was like, we will never make a Superman game. Like we fucking hate Superman.
What are we, idiots?
That's incredible.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay. This episode is brought to you by me, Greg Miller. Chicago, what are you doing Thursday, April 10th at 7 p.m.? The answer? Coming to my live show. That's right, Mrs. Miller's baby boy is coming back to Chicagoland and putting on a 90-minute, one-night only show live from the Goodwin Auditorium at Benedictine University in Lisle. I'm mixing a bit of Up at Noon with a bit of my best Comic-Con performances with a lot of my Chicago influences. I'm calling it A Late Night with Greg Miller, and it's going to offer never-before-heard adolescent tales, an interview with one of my favorite bands of all time, a conversation with Millie Ramsey about growing up in the internet spotlight, your live questions for me, and of course, tons of fabulous video game prizes. Get your tickets now at kindafunny.com/Chicago. And hey, Midwest people, we never do shows out there, so this is your chance to see a Greg Miller stage show. Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, we always talk about how we love to drive as Midwest people, so hit the road for an opportunity you may never get again. This is a fundraiser for Benedictine University. That's right, my childhood best friend Poe School. So get your tickets now at kindafunny.com/Chicago, and I'll see you on April 10th. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's always important for us to be aware of a relationship red flags we should avoid. But what if we focused more on looking for green flags in friends and partners? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify green flags, actively practice them in your relationships, and embody the green flag energy yourself. Some of our best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who have experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule, and it serves over 5 million people worldwide. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny. BetterHelp.com/kindafunny.
Greg, do you remember years ago? I think we were at the JW and like the rumors of, oh man, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna blow up your spot here.
Oh, shit.
Sorry in advance. But there were rumors about Superman floating around and them being tied to Rocksteady. And I ran into you and I was like, hey man, like, sorry, Rocksteady's not making Superman. And you were like, oh, I know, they're making Suicide Squad. I was like, wait a minute, you know more than you're letting on, Greg Miller. You're keeping some insider info to yourself.
Jason, I have so many secrets I don't even tell you.
All right, bro.
No,
how could you not tell me?
This is why I'm always so quick when people are like, oh, fucking games journalist. I'm like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm somewhere in between. I'm a pundit, a critic, an entertainer, or whatever.
Well,
yeah,
you're a CEO.
You know how much. Oh yeah, I'm a dirtbag CEO.
Shareholders, I gotta satisfy the shareholder.
So much of
me.
what Kinda Funny does is infotainment. I don't know what you want to call it, right? But it is the idea that there's wrestling kayfabe all the time. So yeah, no. When I was wearing the Superman shirt, psyched at I knew that Rocksteady was not making a Superman game. But the one thing you and I need to talk sometime privately, like we did at DICE, about like I have a multiple source. There was a Superman game in development in the past decade now. I'm old, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, I think I was at IGN when I originally heard this, and from two different people that I have full trust and belief in, but I've never heard anyone talk about it.
Which studio?
I can't say that. I don't want to say that publicly.
Okay,
I'll tell you.
Well,
I'll
we'll
tell
discuss.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Greg,
exactly,
I think we have lunch. I think we have lunch plans at GDC. We can discuss.
Yeah, we
at
do, but I
lunch.
had to move them because of this demo. I'll tell you later, but we'll figure it out. I'll tell my wife what to tell you about the Superman game, and you tell her what to tell about the Superman game. We'll be back to it.
Perfect.
Jason, I know we only have you for about 10 more minutes before you're hard out.
Yes.
What else do you need to cover? What else do you need to tell?
I have to get on a call with the person who I had to interrupt yesterday.
Tell them we appreciate their sacrifice. We appreciate them doing this for us.
I will.
What else is there to say about WB Games right now and where they're at?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so Monolith is no more, Player First is no more, WB San Diego is no more. So they're definitely consolidating. I think I think they're, man, with the overall industry vibes, there's no sense of security about anything or anyone, but I do think that like Rocksteady and WB Montreal and Avalanche, obviously some of these studios are in more secure places now as a result. Like the big cut just happened. I can't imagine there will be more cuts in the next year or so. But again, you never know with the games industry. But like as of right now, it seems like this is their big drastic move, and now they're going to see what the fruits of like this new strategy look like over the next couple of years. So there are reasons to be bullish about like the remaining lineup, but it's just so tragic and so sad that like all these people who worked at Monolith some of whom had been and have now not shipped a game in 8 years and will not ship one for who knows how much longer because of this. And it's just so sad and tragic that all of these people are just kind of like swallowed into this corporate like drama.
Grinder,
and it's just
yeah.
like net like casualties of that. And yeah, it's just sad, like having the wrong people in charge, or people in charge who like don't make decisions or don't have a strong vision. It can just be so cataclysmic, and it's a hard job, man. It's like I was having drinks with someone at Dice who was like, have you ever thought about things from a publisher's perspective, from the perspective of someone who has to go through the spreadsheet and make the job cuts? And I was like, first of all, I'm a lot more sympathetic for the people who lose their jobs and have to worry about how to feed their families. But sure, I do have a little bit of sympathy for that position. It's a tough position to be in, but that's why you're paid $1 million a year to do it, is because you are trusted to run things in that role.
Yeah.
And so having the wrong people in charge for a really long time can just be so cataclysmic in so many ways.
100%.
I know how
and it's
tough
worth
it
noting.
is, because Greg had to counterpick GTA 6 on our Fantasy Critic League. You know what I mean?
These are big boy decisions.
Tough decisions.
Yeah,
Tough
yeah.
decisions out there.
That
Absolute
is tough,
bummer.
especially because when it gets delayed, you're going to be like, damn.
No, that's what I want. I
that's
counterpicked
what you
it.
want. Oh,
I
okay,
counterpicked
okay.
it, so I don't want it.
Gotcha.
A better example is when Kevin comes over and he's like, hey, can we refill the kegerator? And I'm like, ugh, how much is it?
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if I want to. Of course, Andy and Roger, you have computers. I'd love to get super chats
Yes.
involved. Over here, CJ Splits on, no, it's already gone. I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Bander SN, I'm sorry, said, anything about TT Games? We didn't cover that.
Yes.
Jason, what's going on with TT Games? Obviously, I know Arthur Parsons and a whole bunch of them left. They went and made that Funko game that was not great, and I don't hear anything about the Lego franchise anymore from them.
Yeah, they actually are one of the few studios in the umbrella that has a game coming in the near future. They do have a Lego game coming.
Oh.
I believe it's for next year. I could be misremembering. It's either later this year or next year. I think next year. But yeah, there is a new Lego game coming. I won't blow up their spot and say what it is. But yes,
Fair
there's a new Lego game coming
excellent. Good.
imminently. There's also, by the way, there's like that Harry Potter definitive edition with DLC thing that is coming as well. So there are a couple of things. There's also that Game of Thrones like weird mobile game that was announced at the Game
That has like
Awards.
everybody in it. Yeah, we were all mentioning that casually
Very
yesterday.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Shuttlesworth has a super chat asking about this rumored Batman Beyond game. Is it true? What can we?
Is that even in the cards?
Yeah, is
I
there
haven't
anything
even
in the
heard that
future?
rumor. What is the rumor exactly?
PlayStation exclusive Batman Beyond game. Part of their strategy to stay afloat. PlayStation would have to drop a bag.
That doesn't sound like a rumor.
I
That
don't
sounds
think-
like
I
That's him
someone say
pitching.
that.
That's him pitching.
that sounds like people on Reddit really hoping.
Andy sources.
Listen, Jesus, know your place.
I mean, I know that. So I've said before, I reported a couple weeks ago, Rocksteady is making a Batman game, returning to their roots. I don't know exactly what it is. It's still pretty early days.
I was
on
gonna
that.
say, did they know what it is yet at this point?
Yeah, it's like kind of, it's early. It's early days on that. But I worry a little bit about that because they're going to run into a similar problem that Monolith did, where they've lost a lot of leadership. And so Sefton Hill and Jamie Sefton and Jamie, the two
Founders, right?
founders of Rockstar, Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill, the two founders of Rocksteady, left and formed a new studio called 100 Star, and they've recruited some of their former colleagues. So there was some talent trained there, which, by the way, under Haddad's leadership, like we saw the directors of Monolith leave, founders of Rocksteady leave, a bunch of leadership in Montreal leave, like a lot of attrition at the level of people who had to work with
Ringing
Haddad,
endorsements
which-
of what the plan was over there.
I know it's very early on, Jason, in any of the James Gunn sort of conversations that we mentioned yesterday. What do you know? Do you have any information as to how James Gunn would try to be involved in any WB Games development and any of what is happening with Rocksteady or WB
is he
Games?
even involved? Because when he was talking about stuff, it seemed like he was just kind of on the outside. Like they'd be like, "Oh, would you want to do a Marvel Rivals thing?" He's like, "Yeah, maybe." Like it didn't seem like he was that involved with the whole process.
I think that was, well, I don't know. I mean, I get the feeling that that's more about the headlines and the stories than it is what's actually happening on the ground. But I don't know. It would be happening with very narrow group of people. So it's possibly just hasn't trickled down to me. But I imagine it's more like a Gunn coming in and being like, hey, like story people, like here's what we're doing. Let's make sure that this is all canon or whatever. And let's make sure this all kind of syncs together. But this idea, it's always been a kind of flight of fancy to be like, we're gonna have the DC verse and they're all gonna be connected, the movies and the games, and that's never gonna happen. The timelines are all just like completely different.
But if they introduce the multiverse, then it works, and it's just that we all have our little. Yeah, exactly.
That's what you need, man.
We need more multiverses.
Everything in Fortnite.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. Do you have anything to talk about regarding the Nemesis system?
Oh yeah.
I always have something to talk about. What do you mean regarding the
future plans, patent? I know we've seen many people report that the Nemesis system is patented until 2036.
I was going to say it's coming up right in our next show, Games Daily. I think that's a news story about the year when it expires.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that stuff is overblown. Because I don't know. A lot of that is tech, and you're not gonna recreate it somewhere else. But also, like, I don't really think many game developers are out there being like, we want to copy exactly what the Nemesis system does. Like, a lot of people have been playing around with procedural storytelling in different ways, but like, with or without a patent, I can't imagine a ton of AAA studios being like, we are going to make this exact same thing. And if they do something different that maybe like experiments with similar ideas but feels different, then it wouldn't violate the patent. So I don't know. I think that story has been pretty overblown, is my gut.
A weird thing to patent a video game system.
It really is. Yeah.
It is. But man, if we had more time, I would go on and on about the patent trolling that led to the creation of essentially led to Bobby Kotick taking over Activision. Actually, go read Play Nice.
I was going to say, I do know this from Play Nice, of course.
I read it with my ears.
Oh,
wow.
Me too.
Audible, yeah.
Me too.
Very good book.
As one does.
Very
But yeah,
good book.
patent trolling was Ralph Baer, who was the creator of the Magnavox Odyssey, was like a notorious patent troll and won all these patent lawsuits for like patenting sports games, essentially. It's a pretty crazy part of video game history.
There it is. Play Nice, The
There it
Rise,
is.
Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment,
book.
Jason's latest book.
I
Amazing read.
I also told Jason that I signed up for like my third Bloomberg subscription.
Oh, nice.
Because I was
You
like,
just keep forgetting?
I was just like, no. I have like two other running ones. I still think I got to look at Rocket Money to tell me how to like which one to cancel. But yeah, I had to sign up for a third one yesterday. Had to get that article.
Can I just say, I tweet gift links to all of my articles on Blue Sky. Not on, I said tweet, but like, I don't use Twitter anymore. Blue Sky I post gift links to all my articles. So you can just read them for free there. You don't have to subscribe if you don't want to subscribe to Bloomberg.